A while back, and I mean a while back, I used to be very fond of a specific deck. If you've been around the channel for a while or know me as a person, you know exactly where this is going. Earth Machine was the deck I managed to build as my first main deck when I started out playing however many years ago. And I grew to absolutely love the deck and these big fucking trains that can just kill people into the sun off of one normal summon of Machina Gearframe or Infinitrack Harvester. It was the subject of many jokes, ending on mainly consistently, oh, you only end on Anger Knuckle and Regulus and nothing more. For a while that was true. Until now. UK Nationals was announced for the second weekend of June, which is exactly a month after the latest mainline set release, Blazing Dominion. And very similar to Rev's cards, who I actually got this idea off of, thank you very much bro, and I appreciate you seeing the vision, we essentially have 3 months to get our build, give or take, and hopefully we can hit day 2. Unfortunately, very similar to Rev's and his RDA deck, we have very little competitive tops. Earth Machine has been one of the decks that only top every now and again when we have new machine support, the last top being the RB Earth Machine deck in August of 2025, and realistically that version of the deck leaned more into the RB engine because the cards are more up to date with modern card design. Essentially, this series is going to be a mini Nationals training arc going in depth about the multiple versions of the deck we could play. This is my last known list for the deck. Very much outdated, full of a bunch of bricks that we don't need to play anymore and are really shit to draw, and, well, a lot of cards that have differing legalities to what they are now. Consider the fact we also had to play 42 cards to even fit 12 non-engine in the deck, and, well, having very tight lock from the literal normal summon of Machina Gearframe locking us into machines, and the Earth lock from Infinitrack Brutaldozer, this deck would not survive in the modern day, which sucks. However, Blazing Dominion does actually fix a lot of the problems that this deck had, and, well, consider the fact it shortens down on the number of bricks and shit cards, it's already a very good start, and 2 said bricks are pre-existing ones anyway. Blazing Dominion gives us 6 cards to work with for the deck, 4 in the main, 2 in the extra. I'm going to go over what each card does, essentially what they do for the deck and how they change it. To start, probably one of the best new support cards for the entire deck, Exceptional Schedule. A normal spell card that reads as follows. You can add a special schedule or an urgent schedule from your deck to your hand, then you can special summon a schedule token, Machine, Earth, level 10, 3000 attack and defense to your opponent's side of the field. You can banish this card from your graveyard, target a level 10 machine monster in your graveyard or banishment, send a card you control to the graveyard, and if you do special summon that monster, you can only use each effect of Exceptional Schedule once per turn. This turns one of the best going second cards in the entire deck, Urgent Schedule, into one of the most bonkers starters going first, as it allows you to search it and fulfill the activation condition of your opponent controlling the monster. I'm not going to even try and pronounce the full name of this card in fears of the French coming to kill me, so I'm going to shorten it. Blur Traveler allows you to access one of the weirdest but coolest extenders in this entire deck, Revolving Switchyard, through its effect. You can discard this card, add a Train Connection or a Revolving Switchyard from deck or grave to your hand. You can only use this effect of Blur Traveler once per turn. If this card is in your graveyard, you can target one other Earth Machine monster that's in your graveyard, special summon both it and this card. You cannot special summon from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, except for machine monsters. You can only use this effect of Blur Traveler once per duel. Essentially acting as a terraforming for the deck as well as an extender in the similar vein to Raid Raptor Bloom Vulture, but being once per duel. It essentially acts as a second double-headed Anger Knuckle, but only used once, but even activating this card at one time allows access to another rank 10 train with ease. Heavy Knight Babbledecker is essentially the modern love child of Night Express Knight and Flying Pegasus Railroad Stampede, and it's so good. You can normal summon this card without tributing. You can only use each of the following effects of Heavy Knight Babbledecker once per turn. If this card is normal or special, you can special summon an Earth Machine from your hand, does not have a restriction, and does not negate. During your main phase, if your opponent activates a card or effect this turn, you can special summon a rank 10 Earth Machine Xyz monster from your extra deck by using this card as material. It is treated as an Xyz summon. Babbledecker is essentially the deck's own Lyrilless Sapphire Swallow, as well as having the ability to make rank 10s easier whilst having the same quick Xyz effect as the extra system monsters. Convex Knight joins Scrap Recycler as a very generic way to foolish burial any Earth Machine from deck to grave. If a machine monster is on your field and this card's in your hand, you can special summon this card in defense position, then you can make its level become equal to the level or rank of a machine monster on the field. both of those effects, or the effect to summon and the effect to change level, is entirely in hand. During your main phase, as an ignition effect, you can send an Earth Machine monster from deck to grave. This card gains attack equal to the monster's level times 100 until the end of the turn. You can only use each effect of Convex Knight once per turn. This has the most potential in this deck to fucking drive it to the moon, being able to send any Earth Machine monster from deck to grave. So if you wanted to be saucy, you could send a Canine Noroi from deck to grave, revive it with either the Blur Traveler or a Lantern, and bridge into some Canine combos even, and well, maybe even vice versa. On to the extra deck. Let's start with what could possibly be the second best extra deck monster in the entire deck, Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Flying Launcher. A fucking mouthful. It requires 2 level 10 monsters to be summoned properly. You can normal summon 1 machine monster in your main phase, in addition to your normal summon or set for the turn. You can only gain this effect once per turn. You can use the following effects of Rail Cannon Flying Launcher once per turn. If this card is XC summoned, you can add 1 Earth Machine or 1 Barrage Blast from deck to your hand. You can, as an ignition effect, detect any number of materials from this card, target that many spells and traps on the field, destroy them. Going first and going second, this card is nothing short of amazing, acting essentially as a massive fucking Elemental Hero Stratos as it searches for either Barrage Blast or the Earth Machine, as well as being a spell trap removal. The former now actually being playable, more specifically Barrage Blast, as a tech if the deck is built around being able to search everything in multiple ways, in case you get interrupted on one thing and not the other. Finally, we have Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Rocket. It requires 3 level 10 monsters to be summoned properly. Once per turn, you can also XC summon this card by discarding a card and ranking up on top of a Gustav Max by transferring it and its materials to the card. When your opponent activates a monster effect while this card has material, you can quick effect negate that effect if you do destroy it, then inflict 1000 damage to your opponent. You can only use this effect of a Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Rocket once per turn. Once per turn during your end phase, detach a material from this card or destroy it. One of the things this card now does for the deck is that it essentially makes Gustav really fine going first because of the new time rules make a burn effect significantly weaker and you can't win it in time. It effectively makes Gustav not worth it going first. But being able to pitch up a Clockwork Knight to have a monster negate that you can protect with Goliath and actually makes your OTK easier, it's a lot better to have Gustav going first, and considering now we actually play 2, going first and going second with this card makes it so much better. Post Blazing Dominion, the deck does change a lot. Because of the previously mentioned cards, we can trim the fat and the bricks of the deck, which is very good as it allows us for more space for engine requirements and consistency, or any non-engine we might need to play. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean we need to cut something from the deck for us to have all the space to work with. Unfortunately, it's going to be the Machina engine for now. Simply put, the normal summon of Machina Gearframe isn't as strong in this day and age as it was back in 2010, and especially in comparison to the normal summon of something like Infinite Strike Harvester, which can do the same thing as Gearframe but modulate its level with other monsters, or Convex Knight, which sends any missing piece you don't have to graveyard, can be added back as an extender, and can be used as an attacker whilst manipulating its own level. Mind you, we don't cut the Machina cards entirely. Machina Citadel is still seen post-support because of the quick effect Raigeki and, well, being able to revive itself when any Earth Machine is destroyed. Considering the Machina engine was actually the home to the 2 non-Earth Machine requirements you would need to play in the deck, it means that this card is always going to get to revive itself. Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Also now has access to some really fun cards that just won out back when I originally made the list. The Link 1 Clockwork Knight and its associated spell Clockwork Knight. Confusing, I know. Some of the new Dominus cards, Forbidden Crown, and just a lot stronger cards than in comparison to what I had back then. And this, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, is the newly revamped list post Blazing Dominion. A clean 40 cards with 12 hand traps. There is nothing more sleek than that, especially for a deck that's known for playing at least 43 and up to 60 cards, which the latter version still does exist, but we will get onto that in just a moment. There is also one card in this deck that is definitely sticking out like a sore thumb, and if you don't know the history of the deck and what the card actually does, you will be thinking, why the fuck is it even there? But I'll get into that in just a moment. So for the actual list, we're on 3 copies of Blur Traveler, 1 copy of Flying Pegasus Railroad Stampede, 1 copy of Heavy Freight Train Derrick Crane, 1 copy of the Babble Decker, 3 copies of Exceptional Schedule to search the 2 copies of Urgent Schedule we have, and the copy of Revolving Switchyard. Then we're on for the Infinitracks. We have 3 Harvester, 1 Trencher, 1 Dozer, 1 Tunneler, and 3 copies of Heavy Forward to search them. For the Outlier Earth Machines, we're on 1 copy of Scrap Recycler, 1 Engine Gearbox, 1 Regulars, 1 Machina Sister, and 1 copy of Convex Knight, as well as the Clockwork Knight spell to go with the Link 1. For the non-engine, we're on 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 3 copies of Charming Foolers, 3 Ghost Spell and Haunted Mansion, a Called by the Grave, and a Dominus Purge, or 3 Dominus Purge, should I say. Then 2 copies of Goliath, 1 copy of Riverstormer, 1 Clockwork, 1 Double-Headed Anger Knuckle, 1 Ancient Gear Ballista, 1 Clifford Genius, 2 copies of Gustav Max, 1 copy of Flying Launcher, 1 copy of Dora, 1 copy of Gustav Rocket, 1 copy of Lieb, 1 Zeus, and 1 El Shaddai Shekenaga. Considering the fact that it's a fusion monster in NXT's and Link deck, you'll be very rightfully confused as to why it's even here. It's more like a history lesson. Earth Machine was not always a bricky, awkward mess. Technically, Earth Machine as a deck was a very recent development, as the trains have always been engines in other decks, and more specifically in pure Shaddai. Shaddai trains would become an actual strategy in 2016, and well, would be one of the few decks that could contest the newly buffed Blue Eyes White Dragon alongside ABC and Paleo Frog. Modern Earth Machine would not be really a strategy, and well, even really thought of until the advent of TOS format and the release of Infinity Chases, which gave us the Infinitrack Riverstormer and Infinitrack Goliath. What makes Shekenaga still playable to this day is how people use Nest Shadow Genius to out towers like Lunar Light Liger Dancer, as you can still target it with the effects, but considering the actual effect prevention on Nest Shadow Genius is not affecting the tower's monster itself, it's actually affecting the player, which allows them to go around the unaffected by actual card effects. And to top it all off, both National Genius and National Shekenaga are Earth Machines, which means they have no conflictions with the rest of the deck at all. Dominus Purge is probably one of our best friends, as it essentially acts as another 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, which is ironic considering the fact that Ash is actually the only card in the deck that actually conflicts with Purge, but with some basic sequencing, we can make it less of a problem. Despite us having a clean 40 card main deck, as I had previously shown, there are still so many ways for us to play this deck. Something I've always been a very big fan of is a K9 Earth Machine deck. K9 Noroi itself is an Earth Machine you can search off of Riverstormer, and the normal summon of a Noroi just easily gets you to anywhere you need to go in the deck, as Riverstormer is a generic rank 5. The only thing I have to take into consideration when it comes to playing a K9 engine is that I can't summon any light attribute Xyz monsters off of Lantern or Jokul, which, considering the fact we're not playing a Cyber Dragon Infinity package, we don't have to worry about it too much. However, even if we were, there are still so many ways of making Infinity and our other Xyz monsters without cucking ourselves off the full potential of the K9 engine as a whole. We can always just put the Machina package back into the deck as a whole, go up to 60 cards, add more copies of Convex and everything else. It's definitely something I enjoyed playing when we used to just play the 60 card pile decks, but something it's like more bricky, but it's definitely a more fun way because I get to flex my shiny gear frames and all that stuff. Well, one of many. I'm hoping to get more by now. The Metal Cruncher version still does exist. It's not as good in my personal opinion. I never liked it all that much. However, considering the fact that Flying Launcher does give us an additional normal summon of an Earth Machine, it is definitely something to consider. We could just cut Ancient Gearbox entirely, which as a whole, even though cutting one card doesn't seem like it would do a lot, it means that we can cut some extra bricks and play more non-engine, and well, we have an extra deck space freed up. I don't know if it's actually that good of an idea, because despite it being a brick, it does get you to any missing Infinitracks you don't have, or anything like with 500 attack and defense, specifically Babble Decker, which would likely make our board easier to make through hand traps. All of this is genuinely not considering all the generic Earth supports. Like, even though we have Barrage Blast, we can search through Flying Launcher. We have the Gizmek monsters, which specifically you'll play the Gizmek Frog. Double Wild is definitely something to consider. It's probably not as good. You also have the Earth Channeler as well. The Shadow Fusion, which even though we're playing Shadow Fusion in our side deck anyway, we can play a slightly more extended package to make the new Shadow Fusion, which I don't know if it comes out before announced. I believe it does. We have the Vernisylph stuff as well that we could play. That's not even taken into consideration. The 2 other machine decks, Crystron and Orcust, can also play a lot of these Earth Machine cards anyway. If we want to be more specific, we can always tech into the meta. One of the last versions I want to talk about, as it's very, very interesting to me specifically alongside the K9 engine, is the fact that some people are playing a Future Nova package, more specifically a full card package. Well, full card main, one card extra deck. So if you don't know what Future Fusion Nova is, it is a spell card that is essentially a modern retrain of pre-errata Future Fusion for Cyber Dragon exclusively. Obviously, as you can tell, you have to summon a light machine fusion monster that requires a Cyber Dragon for its summoning requirement, which is good for us because we can essentially make use of it in a very, very good way. So obviously, as you can tell here, we've drawn a hand. The hand is mildly irrelevant other than the fact that we have a Future Fusion. So what we will do is that we will activate the Future Fusion Nova, and we will use this effect by sending specifically Cyber Dragon, the Blur Traveler, and a Therion King Regulus to make Cyber Eternity Dragon. The actual text on Cyber Eternity Dragon is very much irrelevant. You don't need to look at it. All you need to know is that it is a level 10 machine monster. That's all you need to care about. What we can do on resolution, we can then activate the effect of the Blur Traveler, targeting the Regulus in addition to itself, to special summon itself and a Regulus. So as summon number either 2 or 3, you have your nib proof. You have a on-indicate. It does not matter. What we can do now is that we can overlay these two. We can overlay the Blur Traveler and the Cyber Eternity Dragon into a copy of Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Flying Launcher. And essentially, Onyx Summon searches you anything you want, such as the things you're missing. So like in this case, it doesn't really matter what we're missing because we have Harvester, but in most, if not all of this is, we can either add, let's say we add, let's say add Convex Knight, for example. We don't need it. The add is mildly irrelevant. So essentially, what Future Fusion Nova does, it is essentially gives you another way to make Flying Launcher to make it as soon as you can. The only thing that prevents this from being probably actually better than Shadow Fusion specifically is that this doesn't really do much going second. Well, these are both versions of the deck, the Shadow Fusion and the Future Fusion Nova version, all have versions that are very much like catered towards going first and towards going second. Obviously, Future Fusion Nova is better going first because you have to send a brick. You have to send a break and you get an on-indicate out of it, and you also get essentially a spell trap or like as many spell trap pops as you fucking wish. Whereas with the Shadow Fusion, you can obviously send National Genius and any Earth Machine to make Shekhinaga. You can very much try your best to chain block the Genius to get the effects to out Towers monsters. I think that sort of version is really, really cool. I do, however, believe that both versions will probably come up in some degree. I think the Future Fusion Nova version will be better as like an actual deck, whereas the Shadow Fusion will be a more side tech piece. Whilst the new support for the deck is absolutely amazing, Earth Machine still does have its shortcomings. Despite the deck having many ways to extend past hand traps time and time again, a well-timed Draco Tail 5-minute fuse, a Cookie Way Book of Moon, Radiant Typhoon Phonic Shuffle, or a Mandate Negate, it is going to still be GG's for the deck, as it is a rogue deck that requires 2 bodies to be stuck on the board for a Riverstormer or a Flying Launcher, and if you can't do any of that, the deck doesn't really do much. Droll as a card is still very, very strong. Most combos do start with us adding something from deck to hand, and if our opponent draws us on the resolution of it, Jesus Christ, it's going to be so hard to even make a board unless you have the extenders drawn already. And, well, despite the deck being significantly shorter on shit drawable bricks, drawing step bricks are still likely to happen. All the Infinitrack level 5 monsters require an Earth Machine to tribute to special summon. Ancient Gearbox is still shit to draw as it always has been, and well, there's no way to put it back in the deck. And well, Machina Citadel is a level 10 monster that can't be normal summoned at all, and it only summons from grave. Stuff like this can happen, so we do have to try our best to minimize what we can and cannot help. That will be all from me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be making sure that I test this deck in paper with proxies and online with friends to get a better understanding of what I actually want from this deck, and hopefully I can work out a list I like. If you guys want to see more from me, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below anything you thought was funny, interesting, or have something that may be interesting to me. Just remember to keep it civil. Have a good one, stay safe, and happy playing. I shall see you guys in the next.